7 p.m., calling to order the regular meeting of council. And I'd just like to explain to the public and anyone watching at home that we had a motion. We went in camera at 6 p.m. today to discuss some items under Section 24, under advice from officials, local public body confidences. So we are back in public now. We're in the open part of the agenda. So under item 2, are there any urgent items from any of the councillors to bring forward to be added to the agenda tonight? And Jen, you have your light on.
Yes, Your Worship. Administration does have one matter that is timely. It's item 7.3, request for funding, social media coordinator.
Thank you. So we have just the one urgent item due to a time-sensitive issue. Are there any others from councillors? No. Then I'm looking for a motion to confirm the agenda as amended. Councillor Montgomery.
I will move that.
Thank you. You've all heard the motion to accept the amended agenda. All in favor? Thank you. Motion is passed unanimously. We have no presentations or recognitions tonight, but we do have a delegation, and that is item 4.1, Mr. Brian Coe to come forward to talk about the 2-hour parking issue in downtown Strathmore. Brian.
Hello guys, first of all, congratulations. Good luck on your new job.
Or condolences.
That too, yes. Hey, I care about downtown, of course, so you may have copies of this, I'm not sure, but I just would like to speak into regards to the proposed bylaw change for parking downtown. Just in case you don't know me, which of course you all do, but that's beside the point, I would like to explain our involvement with downtown Strathmore. We first started operating Strathmore's Forest in 1980. We are in our second location downtown. We've seen a lot of changes, lots of businesses come and go. We live in downtown North. For over 37 years, I have walked and driven in the downtown almost every day. Every one of those days, I interact with people on the street as well as customers. I get a lot of input. I feel I have the insight and experience to contribute to any downtown issue. The same can be said for other downtown retailers. When you talk about a downtown vision, it is our life every day. Part of the reason we moved to our current location was because of chronic parking issues. We currently have exceptional parking other than court day, but came from a location with many issues, and we feel we really need to protect other retailers because their success contributes to our success. Retailers survive because of their proximity to other retailers. For comparison, why do auto dealers group together? All of us survive by ensuring maximum customer accessibility. We live in a wheel-based convenience culture. If access is limited, today's customer simply goes somewhere else and may continue to do so, and every customer counts. If you question this, ask the downtown retailers what happened to sales this summer during the construction. So who wants 3-hour parking? Customers? Using customers as an excuse is kind of simply sad. There's only 2 businesses downtown, tattoo parlors and possibly hairdressers, that take that time. I cannot think of any other reason a customer would spend more than 2 hours downtown. There's just simply nothing to see, there's nothing to do. For the less than 1%, it really isn't a stretch to ask them to walk from a nearby parking lot, and most are local people who want a healthy downtown and would understand, or give those businesses parking passes. So if less than 1% of customers don't have an issue, it must be what? Owners and staff would be my next thought. I see no problem with most staff of most businesses who I see parking in all the other places. Kinsman Lake, the town lot, the co-op lot, the Alliance Church lot, the side streets, while I walk back and forth from home 2 or 3 times a day at different times of the day. So who does that leave? People who want to park in front of their places of work because they choose not to park in the back or walk a very short distance from the very available parking. They go to work in the morning, go home for lunch, park in front again. Spot taken all day, all permitted. These people do not understand the concept of a competitive advantage for retailers. Imagine 5 or 10 such vehicles in your downtown core. Allowing 3-hour parking will reduce accessibility for all of our customers. Current hotspot is in front of Rocky's, Hidden Secrets and Value Drug Mart, where 3-hour parking would dramatically impact them. Every time you take away these competitive advantages, you are saying you do not believe retail is the future of the downtown, and make it even less desirable to maintain a business here. If you do not want retail in the core, that is your view. But if you do, you need to address our needs. The good of the many outweighs the inconvenience of walking 50 meters. The original bylaws were never intended to control customers. It was an administrative tool to address specific problems with business owners who were not responsive to the needs of those around them. Currently, tickets are issued on a complaint basis very rarely. There is no demonstrated need to change the bylaw. A squeaky wheel gets greased, but you need to consider the implication. Aware business owners need to oppose this proposal. A few minor side comments. If the co-op lot or the Alliance Church lot restrict parking, you suddenly will have parking problems. If your density vision succeeds for the downtown of second apartments on all levels, suddenly parking will be much tighter. The influx of non-retailers is already jeopardizing the downtown. McBride, Bow Valley, Storefront School, all of these are non-retail customers who will use available parking, and there is no additional space for additional retail growth. All of this leads to my real issue, though. I respect council's right to make decisions for the town of Strathmore, but I don't feel this respect is given back to the downtown retailers. It is clear that our thoughts are not wanted. There has been no formal process of any kind to involve all stakeholders in a decision that dramatically affects us all. This has also been demonstrated clearly in the lack of a critical review of the revitalization project. Plans for the next phase are already well underway, and no one has asked the businesses on second what is good or needs improvement. What process is in place for evaluation and review? We all know it's not perfect. It's like we're waiting for accolades and design awards, but my question is, do we not want to do better on future projects? I've been told I should leave it to young, talented town staff and simply be a cheerleader, but I have an incredibly vested interest, and I do have the right to express my opinions. The disregard for the downtown retailers' needs and livelihood is apparent. Someone has a new improved vision in which we are not included. I challenge you to change this attitude and actively involve all stakeholders by making sure we are all consulted before dealing with an issue. We need a spirit of cooperation rather than imposition from the town. You can choose to have a retail-friendly downtown and all the vibrancy that goes with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Are there any questions from councillors? Councillor Corbeil.
Hi. One thing that we actually did have when we did it is we did have a petition that went around with a lot of the businesses, but I shouldn't say not open to asking. I know that there is a thing on Thursday, a communications with the downtown on 3rd, I believe, wanting to see what they want done for 3rd Ave. They are wanting businesses' input, and I wouldn't be opposed to having that question asked, if what they think about the parking.
Thank you, Councillor Corbeil. Councillor Peterson.
Thank you. I just want to point out that Councillor Sobel, when he brought the petition to us, he said it was by no means a what did he call it? He didn't use the word legal, but formalized, proper one. And I noticed your name wasn't on it, Mr. Code. I really, really appreciate you coming here today, and I gathered together in anticipation of you coming some comments, if I might be entitled, Your Worship, from a group of people who share some of your concerns. And it talked about the issues that you identify. So one of the things that the town has done is on February the 13th, there is an open house. Mm-hmm. In light of the comments mm-hmm. that were given to me by you and by others in the downtown on February the 13th from 5 to 7, there is. Having sent this out, one of the reports that I've compiled today said, we appreciate this, Councillor Peterson, but I guarantee you that the minds of your planning development committee in the town are already made up, just as it was on Main Street. My information, this is the second one, my information from the DDRC meeting was that we have gotten nowhere regarding the handicap spots that are on the streets because they don't address handicapped people. They only address the handy bus. And it's pretty clear that the input from the businesses on Main Street have never been considered. Says I'm really grateful for the opportunity to attend on the 13th. And I am very, very hopeful that there will be new opportunities and that there will be some kind of evaluative measure that we will be able to guide the input that is given to council and to the planning and development for the Third Avenue project. This one says, I just want to mention that when they start the Third Avenue project at an appropriate time, they have said that they want to do so that the weather doesn't interfere with the ending. I don't think you understand that it nearly ruined businesses, and some of us are going to take a very, very long time to recover. I don't think that the planning and development and the town council is listening to the people regarding the downtown revitalization. And the rest are a little more personal. So having said all of those things, what do you think we need to do?
Well, I would have liked to have known that someone would have stepped up and said, you know, this is a non-binding, non-valid petition. It's a series of concerned people. But it would be really nice if someone in the town actually stepped up and you say, okay, what about all the people who aren't on this list? And you'll also note that Value Drug Mart wasn't on the list. Okay? And you know, like when you're picking and choosing a list as a council, I just want you guys to tell them, look, did you ask those people? Did you ask these people? I respect totally your right to make decisions, but I feel you need to be sure you're getting it from all the stakeholders as opposed just an administration point of view.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Anyone else? Oh, Councillor Montgomery.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming in, Brian. I admittedly, I hadn't talked to any other business owners prior to coming and talking to you, and I think you do make a good point about like who is kind of going to benefit from extending the parking, so yeah, I think that you do make some good points in that regard, and as well, like as with the I think, and I hope that we will be consulting with people on Second Ave as far as like what to do with the renovation of Third Avenue, yeah, and I guess like I hate to kind of be a flip flopper, like we were presented with a petition that we at the time we didn't kind of know the background of entirely. And, and so we want to do what the will of the people is, basically, So if we're presented a petition from what seems like, a number of kind of stakeholders, let's say, we want to kind of, do the will of those people, as long as it's kind of to the benefit of, the area. And so, like I said, I think you make some good points about, like whether or not it will actually benefit and who it's going to benefit. And as well, like I like from talking to you, I really take your point about, we need to drive traffic to the downtown. We don't need, like, if you look at the number of employees, that work in the downtown and park their vehicles down there, what percentage of the parking spaces are being eaten up by people that, work downtown? And so I think that's an important thing to consider. And I think you make a good point that, those people that work downtown should be making use of kind of the bigger parking spaces and not parking on the streets. I think street parking should be left to the people who are coming downtown for the businesses to shop. So I think that's a good point.
Thanks, Councillor Montgomery. Councillor Cox.
Hi. Thank you, Your Worship. I do love that you came, and I love your passion. I also have lived here a very long time, so I agree. I do want to make sure that you know that this is what needs to happen for those of us that don't know or that are new to council. We need you to come in and tell us, because if we aren't getting the information from you in this way, we aren't hearing both sides. So thank you very much for coming and presenting this to us. And please note that you were heard.
Thank you.
As far as the downtown revitalization, we also don't want to go ahead first without getting your opinions. And in one of our council meetings not too long ago, we did ask that they start these meetings. So February 13th is our first one. It's not our only one.
I was going to say, I won't take the date personally. because I won't be there.
No, it's a bad timing for you. Okay, I see. But it will not be the last one. We've asked for them to start right away because we were brought these issues in January. We wanted them to start right away so that we had enough
You have
time.
time.
Yes, so that we have enough time to get enough information to do a good job. So again, make sure that somehow you're getting your information to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Councillor Peterson?
Your Worship, I'm wondering about the advisability in light of the comment made by Mr. Code. There's probably other people that may not be able to attend either, that there might be an opportunity for our communications department to put together something that that would ensure that input such as given to us tonight came forward.
We can also take a motion to refer this matter and this letter to the committee of the whole meeting and gather more information and get questions answered there too, if that would help everyone. Is that what you're thinking too, Councillor Peterson?
No, I was, sorry.
I just was going to add to what Denise said, though. Your Worship, I thought that when we asked for these meetings, that we also asked for a questionnaire or a survey to go out.
Ryan, would you like to come from planning and address that?
Sorry, Ryan.
No problem, Your Worship. This is a good opportunity to speak to this. So, at the last meeting, we discussed that there were some issues with the previous consultation strategy. Oftentimes because it was more of a communication strategy than a consultation strategy.
But could I just interject for a moment? I thought in the Second Avenue redesign, I thought we had open houses that were for the business owners and public to see. And I also thought it was presented at Chamber of Commerce for the business owners to provide input. Was that not the case, Brian?
There were open houses, no question.
Okay, so there was a chance
I
to.
did not go to the second one.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we did our due diligence and had, I believe staff gave opportunities for business owners to be involved in Second Avenue redesign plans. Okay.
Absolutely, Your Worship. And we're trying to, certainly lessons learned from the last one is provide more, especially for opportunities with open houses. The risk is always people miss them. So as part of this as well, there'll be a survey issued at the open house, but also a survey link posted online to all the social media, town social media accounts, so anyone who misses it will have the opportunity to fill out the same survey. As well, we'll be doing direct personal interviews with businesses on second and third, going into their places of business, a sort of staff-driven business walk, if you're on the Central Okanagan type thing, to get sort of that direct face-to-face commentary on a lot of this. And then, based on that, council will get a sort of consultation report, sort of detailing what has come out of this, and then from there, future open houses and consultation.
Ryan, if I could ask you a follow-up, are there opportunities for a business owner like the Codes to submit some comments to that February 13th meeting for the first meeting, since they can't be there due to the business of the next day? Is there opportunities for them to put that information in writing and submit it?
Your Worship, absolutely. If Brian or if other businesses want to put something together, absolutely.
Mr. Code?
I think really what my perspective is here is that you sound like you're providing opportunities, but I actually think you need to be somewhat more aggressive than that. I think he must go around to the businesses one by one with the survey, literally. There's only 50 businesses on those two streets. Someone should take the time to bring out this is the last time, these are ideas for the next time, would you like to comment on them? And like the Legion and all those places, because they'll have handicapped comments, I can assure you.
They sure do. Your Worship, can I go one
Councillor
step further?
Peterson.
Thank you. When we were in our very recent strategic planning, we talked about how when we do the type of survey, and a lot of this came from Mr. Roycroft, when we set out to do information gathering and survey our public, one of the things that should also happen at the same time is we should set out an evaluative strategy so that we can measure how effective we are. And I think that would be an extremely useful thing, because we have no way of evaluating, as you said, one of the lessons learned when we did second. And so I'd like to hear your input on that, regarding that.
Your Worship, if you're not evaluating something, you're really just kind of flailing.
If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there.
Yeah, well, and if you don't, if you don't sort of know how you've got there and how you've succeeded, there's no way you'll do better next time. That's something that we'll have to begin to develop. It's not one the town has done in the past, but fortunately there's, again, a number of sort of methodologies for these things to work on, and that's part of the reason why, you know, the tie back to council and the public this way will be bringing forth reports on, you know, what came out of the consultation and making that public, and then making sure that there is that loop back to council, that consultation isn't sort of put into a black box and then sort of unknown what comes of that. So the goal is to begin closing the loop on a lot of these things and formalizing that some.
And one of the things that I think it's just critical that when we do this consultative process, that when we walk into those businesses, we say, this is how we envision evaluating how successful we are. And certainly they would have input into how that would be measured as well. And we know that we won't likely apprise everybody all the time, we won't please everybody all the time, but at least we can have some kind of a evaluative-based process that will add value to what we do in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Councillor Bauer?
Thank you, Your Worship. Brian, I'm so happy to see you here today. I was eagerly anticipating your arrival for so many reasons, for you being part of this process, and your voice is so valuable. I wanted to hear what you had to say on this issue because we hadn't heard the opposing view. So I thank you for coming and providing that. One question I have, and I'm so intrigued about this, is the idea of parking passes. So are you advocating the idea of parking passes for people that need the extension, or are you advocating the idea of parking passes for those employees that are working downtown that are using the parking lot?
No, I'm only talking about customers who are going to be more than the 3 hours, like the tattoo shop. If it takes him all day, that person, the tattoo shop, give them a book of 50, make them tie it to their appointment books,
Yeah.
pass them out to the customer of the day, give them a one-day stamp.
Has this been done before?
In other towns it has, but yeah. But I've never seen it here.
I think it's a great idea.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Councillor Bauer. Councillor Cox?
I just want to go back to this survey, Ryan, Your Worship. I just want to know, you're going into these businesses, you're going to have one-on-one communications with them, but you're going to give us reports. Are they going to be detailed reports so that we can know what these individual businesses are saying? Because what your perception of what they're saying and my perception are going to be two different things. I'd prefer to have it straight from the horse's mouth.
Ryan?
Your Worship, with regards to that, that's always a difficult one because we want to ensure that the comments given are treated anonymously and are, to an extent, sanitized to the point where one can't track back who's making it. Mm-hmm. And it is, well, somewhat consistent, so we'll have to develop sort of an interview methodology for that, just to make sure that we're getting a degree of consistency in the answers, that we can get some sort of statistical validity out of it. And it may be at the end then staff produce a report with consultation results, and then as an appendix put the raw responses, and that's oftentimes how we've done these in the past.
Okay. Thank you.
So I think if I can summarize the lessons learned from the codes coming tonight is that we need to make sure we survey Third Avenue business owners carefully, as well as evaluate how Second went. But as far as this this extension or the bylaw coming as far as extending the parking, we can have a motion to refer that to committee of the whole so that we can discuss that and hear more information. I don't believe the bylaw is coming, any proposed change to the bylaw is not coming until the 21st of February. So we still have time, and that means that you're being listened to and that we're going to take into account the letter you've written and really get some information, gather some information, get some questions asked or answered at that committee of the whole meeting before the bylaw comes back again as far as any possible change to it. So I just want you guys to know that you've been heard.
Thank you.
We are listening to you. We appreciate your business being so successful downtown, and we're not trying to do anything that would sabotage your businesses. And I know that you guys all took a hit on the Second Avenue redevelopment. We really believe that it's going to go a long way to help downtown, especially if we can make some adjustments to problems that may have developed in that time. But you've been heard, and we have listened to you, and it's not coming forward till the 21st. So we have time that we can get questions addressed and figured out too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming forward
Thank you all.
tonight. And thank you.
Okay.
So I'm looking for a motion then to refer the information presented tonight to the Committee of the Whole meeting. Councillor Bauer?
I make a motion to refer the item that we just discussed to the Committee of Whole meeting.
Thank you. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And the motion is passed. Not happily, I don't think. Did you want to, we have passed the motion,
No,
but.
it's okay. I just, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Item number 5, confirmation of minutes. 5.1, the minutes of the January 24th, 2018 regular council meeting on page 3 of your, starts on page 5 of your handout. Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to move an amendment to Resolution 035.
Your Worship, just point for clarification, the minutes need to be adopted with an amendment.
So you're looking for a motion to adopt them first?
Adopt them with the amendment of that.
Exactly.
Adopt the minutes with your amended motion, or your amended, okay.
Pass the motion to adopt the
No, you do.
as amended.
You.
No, sorry.
Ms.
for
Swatsky, can you
clarification
give us more
further.
clarification?
Yes. So the motion would need to be that council adopt the minutes with the following amendment.
Your Worship,
Yes.
I move that we adopt the minutes of the January 24th, 2018 regular council meeting with the following amendment. 6.1 taxi first aid requirement. Resolution 018.01.18 to read. Resolution moved by Councillor Cox that council share administration's need to uphold the current requirements of the taxi bylaw and support administrations and the chief license inspector's offer of, number 1, to provide all taxi drivers working for companies and brokers registered in the town of Strathmore an in-house first aid CPR training course at the cost of $50 per person and certification which lasts 3 years. Number 2, upon successful completion of the course, each driver will therefore have their driver permit fee under section of bylaw 13-21- Schedule I waived for 2018. Number 3, a one-time extension for the first aid requirements of the taxi bylaw to be extended to February 23rd, 2018, where all drivers must show proof of standard first aid to comply or a scheduled date for completion of this course. And number 4, if a new driver requires first aid, there will be a grace period to allow the driver to certify with first aid.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. You wanted to speak to the motion, Jason? Councillor Montgomery?
A small item. I just wanted, I was wondering if we can get the word waived, just kind of spelled correctly. There should be an I in there, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. So you've all heard the motion. All in favor? The motion is passed. Which brings us to item 5.2, the minutes of the February 1st, 2018 special council meeting, page 11.
So move, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. You've all heard the motion regarding the minutes of the February 1st meeting. All in favor? Motion is passed. And that brings us to item 6. There are no tabled items tonight, I believe, so we're on to item 7, items from administration. 7.1, council committee appointment, the Strathmore Library.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council has received a request from the Strathmore Library and from Mr. David Seymour to appoint Mr. David Seymour to the Strathmore Library Board for a one-year term ending October 31st, 2018.
Thank you. Councillor Peterson, question?
I just have a question, Your Worship. Have we finalized anything around board appointments into the future? Because that is something that we were going to be looking into. I'm wondering where we're at with that process.
Your Worship, we haven't finalized anything at this point in time. Council did discuss the matter at their strategic planning session. It was a matter that was identified that needed to be addressed in the near future. I believe administration will be coming forward with a plan for council in the near future regarding those recommendations.
Thank you, Ms. Sawatsky. So at this point, Councillor Bauer?
I have met Mr. David Seymour, and I would like to move that council appoint Mr. David Seymour to the Library Board for a one-year term ending October 31st, 2018.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bauer, too. You've all heard the motion? All in favor? The motion is passed. This brings us to item 7.2, Records Management Policy number 17-01. Deborah.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening. Administration is bringing forward a housekeeping matter. After review of our current town legislation surrounding records management, administration has recognized a number of deficiencies through the records management program. We are taking strides to update and make current our practices through bylaw and policy. Through careful review and investigation into best practices, administration is bringing forward two pieces of legislation this evening for council's approval. The first is Policy 1701. This policy has been updated as it was last adopted by council in 1990, and it addresses retention, electronic records, security, and storage. Later on, administration will bring forward a bylaw that establishes power around records disposition. Administration is requesting that council approve Policy 1701.
Thank you, Debbie. Councillor Montgomery?
If this is the time, I just have a couple questions about the, I guess, the implementation of this. Will these records be accessible from the internet?
No, these are internal town records.
Okay, because yeah, my concern was, and I guess like this, like, do we know if our insurance covers data breaches? Like, if any member of the public's information was taken from us, do we have insurance to cover that kind of thing? Okay, thank you. Oh, and sorry, I have one more question. This is I was reading through this the policy, and I noticed that there was one part where it said that if the town's incorporation document was lost or destroyed, it would be irreplaceable. What would happen in the case of that?
Well, and that's why the Vital Records program really comes in, right? We need to establish those records. So actually that is scanned in, so now we can reproduce that document. So that is our goal, to identify those vital records and make sure we have copies of those, or they're scanned in electronically and we can reproduce those. So that is a part of the program that we're trying to establish.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. Councillor Peterson.
I just want to assure, sorry. In this Records Management Policy 17-01, there's also a follow-up to 1701-2.
Yeah, procedure.
But it is all covered by this management policy, am I correct?
Yeah.
So on...
The procedure, we're asking in the bylaw to be approved by
right.
the CEO.
And,
Yeah.
and then you have the Vital Records program that's
Yes.
followed up in here.
Yeah.
So two things. One is just a housekeeping error. I noticed that under your category A, you have it as a Vita record as opposed to a Vital record.
Okay, sorry.
And just a small error. And the other thing I wanted to just ask questions about the quality control threshold. I noticed in other organizations and a quality control threshold, they have an evaluative process that always comes through it. And so I'm sure you must have one.
Yes.
You must have some backup.
There's usually, so when you scan in, there's usually a sheet, which is similar to a photocopier, to make sure all those resolutions and things are in place. I didn't include that into the procedure, but I definitely can.
I don't know if it's necessary. Just
Okay.
a question I had to ask. I guess it's probably important to include it in the procedure.
Okay.
if there ever needs to be a quality management process done. I was really impressed. It's great to see this.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. So at this point, we're looking for a motion concerning policy 17-01.
I've lost my page.
We're on page 17, if you're playing along at home.
I move that council approve the record management policy 17-01 as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you, Debbie. Which brings us to item that finishes item 7. We're on now to 7.3, which was an emergent item that was added, an urgent item that was added by Legislative Services. Jen.
Thank you, Your Worship. Administration is bringing forward a request to council tonight for funding for a communications position. In 2018, council did approve a part-time communications specialist position with the town. However, in our initial stages, we have quickly realized the large scope that encompasses this job. We're asking for additional resources to support communications specialists in getting our program off of the ground. Currently, council preliminarily, if that's a word, identified communications as a priority for their term. The initial stages of development of this program are critical, and we will be laying the foundation for all communications processes. We've already seen the benefits of having our communications specialists come on board with us, especially when we've been dealing with some controversial matters with the public. However, a lot of the items that have been coming up are not leaving any time to develop the foundation that we need, that being our communications policy development. Because of this, we are requesting that council approve funding for a temporary position that we've identified here. The status of this position will be reviewed at the end of the budget cycle. If council does approve the funding, the funds would be drawn from the Financial Stabilization Reserve.
Thank you, Jennifer. Councillor Peterson.
Clarification. So we, in 2018, in the budget, we approved the 0.75, and now, so you're asking an increase to 0.5. So we would have a 1.25 in communication. So
Correct.
that's not correct. So you'd have more than one full-time position dedicated.
No, Your Worship. So we would have two part-time positions, one at 0.75.
So two
and
different people.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Councillor Cox, did you want to add? Okay.
No, that was my.
Are there any further questions for Councillor Montgomery?
So I guess, so the problem is that so initially, we were going to have our communications person kind of handle the policy development, but they're too busy, is what you're saying?
Yeah, so the issue that's coming up is communications is a very large job with a large scope, and it can mean a multitude of things. However, what we're finding is we're focusing on a lot of social media and PR items at this point in time, which isn't leaving time to develop the policy or that foundation that we need to in order to, address those issues in a more constructive way in the future. So we're really playing catch up in a big way with kind of outstanding issues and matters.
Thank you.
So as this policy is developed, is this will kind of, let's say, dictate what matters will be kind of dealt with by the communications person. So I guess I'm kind of concerned that it's great that we communicate with the public, obviously, but I would. I'd hate to let's say go out and fight every single battle with the public. So are we going to be limiting the scope of what the communications person is doing in the future?
No, not necessarily. I think the point of getting this person on board is so that we don't have to respond or react so much as to being proactive and creative in our communications to address matters before they pop up. And that's kind of where we're playing catch up right now, is we're reacting to a lot of things that are happening and not being proactive with our communications. Having someone focused on the PR aspect of communications will really help our other communication specialists develop those programs that we can be more proactive and more creative.
And if I could add to what Jen has said, I think today the communications release, James mentioned to me that we're already ahead of the game for tonight. There may be a snowfall, heavy snowfall, so a communications release has already come out. So we're ahead of that situation as far as communicating it to the public. So that's the kind of thing that between the two positions, we'd be able to do that as well as setting the foundation for the rest of the work so that it's more all-encompassing. I think that's where we're headed. Councillor Cox?
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you, Your Worship. Administration, sorry, I just wanted some clarification. So would the new position, the .5 position, be the PR position then? Is that what you're looking at?
That is
Or
our
are they-
intent.
Okay.
We're finding that the social media part of this job of communications is bigger than what we expected.
So can I just ask one more question? What made you decide that 2 part-times was better than 1 full-time?
We really need 2 bodies, 2 people focusing on different things that. I guess the ask for the two part-time, like I said, is really about having 2 focuses in different aspects of communication.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification, oh, you're good.
That was my question.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor Bauer. Councillor Peterson.
Your worship, I have a motion,
Okay, thank
but I
you.
have a motion previous to this motion.
Pardon?
It is related but not, so I'd like to make this motion and then a subsequent motion.
Okay,
So I would move that council approve funding for a temporary part-time, .5 PTE communications position not to exceed $50,000, with funds to be drawn from the Financial Stabilization Reserve.
thank you, Councillor Peterson. You've all heard the motion.
Sorry, can I ask one more question? This 50,000, that will be like everything, you guys are saying everything
All in.
included, like including, benefits or what? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery, for the clarification. You've all heard the motion from Councillor Peterson. All in favor? And the motion is passed. Councillor Peterson, a following motion?
Thank you, your worship. I would like to move a direction to administration to provide council with the overall percentage increase in staffing in the year-over-year from 2017, January 31st to 2018, January 31st, just so that we can do due diligence and.
Okay, did you want to add further comments to speak to the motion, or are you?
That's all my comments,
Okay.
yes, thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments concerning that motion? Jen?
Your Worship, sorry, I just missed for clarification. Can Councillor Pearson please repeat the years?
So in the last year, so from January 31st, 2017, or whenever you think, but up to the current date, so within the last year to the current time, what I'd like to see the percentage of overall budget increase to staffing, all staffing.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Does everyone understand the motion? Does anyone need clarification or questions answered?
Okay, Jen?
So you've all heard the motion? All in favor? And that motion is passed. Thank you, everyone. We move on to item 8, committee reports. 8.1, committee reports from council-appointed committees. I believe some of them have been submitted in writing. So this is on page 63. Did anyone want to speak or make any comments about that? And I'm looking for a motion. Councillor Corbeil?
I move the council accept the reports for information.
Thank you, Councillor Corbeil. Any comments on that motion or concerns? You've all heard the motion. All in favor of that motion? The motion is carried. Which brings us to item 8.2, reports from councillors from committees on which they sit. Councillor Corbeil?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a quick one, just from SWAT. We just met. They've just found kind of their mandate of as to what we want to do. and we're getting a presentation together to go into parent groups of each of the schools and hopefully getting into the schools to do presentations. We actually have quite a few volunteers that want to come, and these are people that had addictions issues and they want to come and basically tell their story, and I think that would be a really effective way to reach some of these students, and actually to the youth club. That's another place that we are going. Thank you.
That's good, thank you. Councillor Cox.
Sorry, Your Worship, I just wanted some clarification within this committee reports. My understanding from a go-forward basis, we're going to submit reports and not speak to them?
Jen, did you want to speak to that from Legislative Services?
Thank you, Your Worship. That was discussions amongst council. However, that has not been solidified within the current procedure policy. Administration is bringing that policy forward to the next committee of the whole meetings for council's discussion.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. So we're looking for a motion concerning the reports from councillors from committees on which they sit. Councillor Cox, God bless you.
Your Worship, I move that council accept the reports for information.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? The motion is carried. Brings us to item 9, items directly related to council. I don't think we have anything. Number 10. Oh, Councillor Peterson, I'm sorry.
Your Worship, I would like to just offer thanks on behalf of council members who had in-servicing from our technology staff. Greatly appreciated, much needed. Look forward to more. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Councillor Cox?
I'd also like to shout out a happy birthday to our CAO.
You've all heard the motion? Yes, happy birthday, James. So, item number 10, bylaws, Tempo 1, bylaw number 17-13, records retention bylaw, which is found on page 75. And Debbie, you're coming forward again.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Administration is bringing forward bylaw 1713. As the MGA section 214 indicates, a municipality may proceed with destruction of records if done so by passing a bylaw respecting destruction of records and documents of that municipality. This bylaw establishes power surrounding records disposition, and therefore we are requesting that council approve bylaw 1713.
Thank you, Debbie. Councillor Peterson.
Would move first reading of bylaw 17-13, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? The motion is carried. Deputy Mayor Bauer.
I move council second. I move that council second the reading for records retention bylaw 17-13.
Thank you. You move
I
second.
move second reading.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bauer. You've all heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Councillor Montgomery.
No, I'm just gunning up for the first.
Oh, okay,
Next
you're
one.
geared up.
So-
Oh, that's, Councillor Cox, are you
I
geared
got
up for the
this
next
time.
one too?
No, I
Okay,
actually
Councillor
would
Cox.
I'd like to actually ask a question.
Okay,
It doesn't have any time frames.
So the timeframes is what the retention schedule is for.
Oh, where's the time?
It's in the schedule.
Oh, thank you.
thank you, Councillor Cox. So right now, we have a motion for second reading on bylaw number 17-13. All in favor, oh, James, did you have a comment?
No, it's okay, just when you're done.
Okay,
Sorry.
all in favor of that second reading motion? Thank you. Motion is carried. James, did you want to speak now?
I just wanted to shout out and commend Debbie and Jen and Deborah and the whole team, and all the staff have worked very, very hard on this records management. This is a huge, huge project. We've sat through hours of meetings and work and trying to change, and Debbie's just been an absolute star, and the team is really, really appreciate what she's doing, and thank you for doing it. And I just wanted to let council know she's just done an amazing job, and so and all the staff have done a lot in our organization, because it's a big change to move from paper to workflow. And thank you for everybody.
Well done. Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie and staff.
We can probably open up like 60 square feet of office space.
Councillor Montgomery.
All right, I've been practicing for this. I move that council give consent, unanimous consent for a third and final reading of Records Retention Bylaw number 17-13.
Thanks, John. You've all heard that brilliant motion. All in favor? That motion is carried. So we need Councillor Corbeil.
I move council give third reading to Records Retention Bylaw number 17-13.
Thank you, Councillor Corbeil. You all heard that motion. All in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, Debbie, and thank you again to all staff and administration for their work. Okay.
It was huge.
Which brings us to item 11, urgent business. I don't believe we have anything. Nope. Item 12, questions between councillors and/or council statements. Don't think we have anything. Item 13, administrative inquiries. Jennifer?
Your Worship, may administration request a 1-minute recess?
Yes. All in favor of a 1-minute recess?
I didn't.
Oh, we need a motion. Sorry, a motion for a 1-minute recess. You're not a councillor, Jen, are you?
Your Worship, I move that we have a 1-minute recess.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And we're in a 1-minute recess. Back. Councillor Cox.
Your Worship, I move that we come out of recess.
Thank you. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? Oh, we're back. We don't need a motion for that? Okay. Wow. We're trying so hard. All right. We have no administrative inquiries, or we do have administrative inquiries. Jennifer.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have 1-minute administrative inquiry from
Thank
Mayor
you.
Fuel in regard to two pathways for 2018. The inquiry reads, could administration provide a cost estimate for a paved pathway through Lambert Park? It would go from the south end of Lakeside Views through town property at Lambert Park and connect to the sidewalk on Park Lane Drive. This would complete a loop of walks and paths around the wetlands of Gray Park. Also, could administration check on having developers finish paving the north end path of Strathmore Lakes?
Thank you, and I apologize for my handwriting, too. Councillor Peterson.
I just have a question for clarification. May I ask that, Your Worship? So my understanding was that when, in the Canada 150 project, when we passed the Grays Park pathway system, that was part of it, that we were tying that pathway into Kinsman Park. Well, if we're going to tie Grays Park into Kinsman Park, I assumed, we weren't going around. I thought we would take the most direct route, which would be through Lambert Park. I just assumed.
We'd have to look at the map. There was a couple of routes proposed.
There were pathways put in, but they're gravel pathways right in the wetlands, correct?
Oh, there was one had a boardwalk.
Yeah.
One didn't.
Yeah.
And one had connecting around through the wetlands, not through the park.
When I saw the initial proposal, and I admit I did not see the last one, the pathway came from the north side of the library around West Park Village, and then by the library, and then through Lambert Park and into Kinsman Park.
I think there is some connectivity there. I'm not sure if it.
Mark looks like he knows.
Do you know, Mark?
Maybe we bring this back to committee of the whole, just bring the plan.
Yeah.
So I think all the councillors have the plan in front of them when we discuss in detail.
Could go to the
In
sidewalk.
front of the library.
Yeah, you could. Okay. So we have that administrative inquiries in? Okay, thank you. And item 14, we need a motion to go back in camera. Councillor Corbeil?
I move we go back into in camera.
Thank you, Councillor Corbeil. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? and we're going in camera at 8:04.